Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Peter Goes Rogue, and today we're going to have something we haven't had before on this channel. A rant! A proper, full-blooded Peter Oxley rant, the like of which I know many of you enjoy. Now, it's not about models, because we're not on the modelling channel. This is about actually much weightier matters than models. And you're going to see me and hear me really losing my big time. Yeah, I'm going to go ape. Okay? I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are really starting to irritate me, and one of them's about YouTube. I'll get that out of the way first because it's shorter, in fairness. So, here we go. So this won't be the most visual of videos. I am going to show you some photos, though, that will probably amuse and horrify in equal measure. But I'm having a bit of trouble with YouTube. Obviously, I've got my new channel here, Peter Goes Rogue, just to plug it again. But it's been struggling a bit, it's fair to say, which I did predict would happen anyway. At the very beginning, because it's not got the same following. Now, I've got 600 odd subscribers, and I'm very grateful to each and every one of you, so thank you very much. But I think because it doesn't ally to any one particular subject, unlike the modelling channel, it's the algorithm at YouTube. It relies on the algorithm, and this is one of the things I want to complain about. Now, the complaint actually isn't really... At first I thought, well, you're just going to have to live with it. But then I started to notice a lot of problems with the YouTube algorithm, not connected with my channel, nothing to do with my channel, where I've been having issues just as a viewer, like you do. You guys are watching, you know, your viewers, most of you have not got channels yourself. I've started having a load of problems with it. It's an absolute nightmare. What on earth have they done now? So, but the issues are, in summary, so I'm mentioning that the only issue I've got with this new channel is it's not being offered to people. The videos just don't get offered to people. You can tell that. There's a combination, obviously, of a lot of people don't know me outside the modelling communities, which is understandable. Because I'm not a celeb or anything like that, you know. Apart from I do a lot of work for charity work, but even that hasn't brought me any fame. Not that I want it, to be honest. But no, seriously. So I'm not known outside of this very small niche community, you know. So that's understandable, perfectly fine, and I fully expected that would be the case anyway. But here's the real issue, and this is when I've started to notice that something has gone very, very wrong. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, when there was a chap on. There'd been two guys who've got a channel. I can't think what it was. It wasn't models or even cars. It was something else. Some sort of I think it was a channel where they were either doing... They were creating stuff, unusual things out of junk. Or was it the one where they were doing ballistics? I can't remember, but there was these two guys, and they had a very well-established channel with 100,000 subscribers, which is excellent. And they were complaining that suddenly that the YouTube algorithm's gone a bit mad, and I'm seeing this myself now. So what they said is that suddenly they weren't... The same problem I've got, their viewers weren't getting offered subscribers. They subscribe to the channel, and you'll get... What do I always say? You'll get early notification of every video. Well, you're not doing. This is the problem. YouTube are not offering it. And I've started to notice this with mine. And these guys are complaining bitterly about it, saying that a video that would get 15 to 20,000 views in the first week is now getting 1,000. Because then they've realised that they've got friends and subscribers who are saying, it's not coming up anymore. They're not offering it to me. So I started looking into this a little bit more, and I've started to realise that it's not just them or me. I'm now experiencing this on the other side of the fence, like you would. I'm not getting offered things, and I'm having to go looking for specific channels that I'm subscribed to. And I don't think I've been some of them I have been unsubscribed. I don't know how, nothing to do with me. And others where I'm still subscribed, but it still doesn't offer me. If I subscribe to a channel, I'm telling YouTube's algorithm I want to watch that show. The next show from Harry's Garage, for example. What's that? Harry's Farm. Harry Metcalf, great guy. Or, you know, Phil Flory on the model side, or Night Shift, somebody like that, etc., etc. So many I'm a subscriber to, you know. JM on cars and the car one. And it's just, instead of offering me those that I want to see, like you, some of you, want to see my stuff, it's offering me stuff, and it's offering me things, and this is where I know something has gone badly, badly wrong. I'll come to the point in a second, but going back to these two guys, I mentioned that I'd watched a video the next day where somebody from YouTube was trying to justify and defend it, saying And then when they were asking him exactly how the algorithm works, he didn't have a clue. And I just thought at the time, said to my wife, said, this is all going a bit wrong. And it's because they've let AI take over. That is what has basically started to happen. Perfect examples, right? It's offered me 3 or 4 videos. One video, let's just go back a week, just before my birthday. It offered me one video up next, and it's like, I watched that yesterday, and I watched it all the way through, and gave it a thumbs up. I even gave it a comment. I don't need to be told to watch it again. This is just bizarre. This is new. This has only been happening in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I reckon. Basically since the start of August-ish, say 6 weeks. And it's doing it all the time now. And it's offering me stuff that I watched a month ago, and I remember them, things I've enjoyed. I don't want to see it again now. I've watched that particular video. What are you offering me that for when there are people sometimes from the same channel who are offering new stuff? It's not offering me the new stuff. What is it bloody doing? It's just gone a bit mad. And this is becoming really annoying now because it's actually becoming irritating. I've been offered one video. I'm trying to think which one it was. One of them was to do with Charlie Kirk, which I just happened to watch because of the news, obviously, sad news. But there was others to do with Porsche and Ferrari and electric cars, something I'm interested in. I don't want an electric car. That's another story. We'll get into that on another show. But it was offering me the same thing I'd watched a week ago and the same thing I'd watched a day ago. Why? There's lots of new stuff coming out every day. And, things like new publication. Tyrrell's Classic Garage, another one I watch. Ian Tyrrell has got a classic car specialist up in Chester, not far from me. I love his material as well. And it wasn't offering me the latest one. It was offering one for 6 months ago that I've seen. Thinking, it didn't used to do this, right? It never used to offer you, in my experience, something I'd seen before, especially when I watched it right from start to finish. It would always offer you something new, and it's lost the plot. The algorithm at YouTube, I'm telling you now, has gone horribly wrong. I hope they know this. In fact, I haven't done a search, but I'm sure there must be people commenting on this at length that are real experts in the field. I am telling you, it's gone completely haywire, and this is why successful creators, really brilliant ones, better than just modelers or whatever. I'm not talking about niche stuff now, but some very high-profile people are now getting very upset about this. As I mentioned, people with much bigger channels than mine, medium-sized YouTube channels, and it's all gone to pot for them. And it's because AI is running the algorithm, and it doesn't seem to recognise. It used to be clever, and it used to not recommend things you'd seen before. Now it's offering you repeats every day. It's driving me bonkers, to be honest. The hell is wrong with them? I mean, it's not like we don't pay for it. I pay for it personally by paying for the YouTube Premium subscription. So it's £13 a month. It's not cheap, really, for what it is. You might not do that. You pay for it by having to watch adverts if you don't subscribe as a premium member. Either way, we pay. And by the way, for those of you that complain about some of my vids saying, "Oh, there's too many adverts," well, that's not my doing. If you don't pay for this premium subscription, you have to suffer the adverts, I'm afraid, and it's not me who selects what the adverts are or when you see them. I don't choose that, but anyway. But this thing about the algorithm, it's making decisions and it's pushing stuff that is old news. It's like pushing repeats all the time. This is new to me. I've not noticed this in the past ever. It's only in the last few weeks. So something's gone horribly wrong with YouTube. So that is a bit of a rant I needed to have about YouTube itself. My second rant is about a very pressing issue which we're suffering where I live. Now, I don't want to go into the details because it's a live situation, like a live case. I'm going to show you some photographs to illustrate my points there, but I don't want to go into the location or the name of the planning application. So basically, where I live in a very nice rural village basically in Cheshire. But it's not just any old village. It's got a canal running through it. It's a very picturesque little place. It's very old. It's had a church here for the last 1,000 years, which is incredible. And so it's a very historic place. And it's got a lot of rural charm, and it's got tourism because of the canal, etc. Now, directly behind my house, yes, I'm directly affected, but I'm not a NIMBY, and we've had development here in the village before, but we seem to have stopped having. We've got a government now that basically, I'm not going to get into politics if I can avoid it, but we've got a government who don't seem to understand these concepts at all. and they just want to dump houses anywhere they can without any thought of the consequences or the suitability. And that's what this is about, my rant, really. From the developer company, which I'll try and remain nameless if I can avoid showing you, causing real anger and frustration because they've chosen the most stupid location of a site, one of the stupidest I've ever seen. So what they've gone for, right up against the canal, which is going to cause them issues with the Canal River Trust, apart from anybody else. But between the canal, behind my house, we have a field. We can see the canal. It's very pretty. So yes, we'd lose the view and all that. But it's not really about that. It's more about what it's going to do to this village. It's going to wreck it, actually. It's going to do real damage. And the reason it's going to do real damage is that they've chosen a location that's on the wrong side of the village, where everybody has to go through the centre of the village to get out. Well, not everybody, but about 90%. If you go towards the Wales direction, then it's different. But anyway, again, I don't want to name too much detail here because I don't want to prejudice what's going on. It's currently under consideration. I don't want to name any names or quote any numbers in terms of specifics. But I will give you some interesting... When you hear my rant, I'll read out my objections. And I think those of you that like to hear me ranting are going to love this because it's me on fire, really. So... They want to build, and this is the problem. There was an application here in 2017 to build 34 houses. Sorry, it was initially in 2017. It was to build 87 houses, and that got rejected. So they scaled it back to 34, and that was ultimately rejected as well because of the location. The reasons I'll go into more detail later, but for the reasons I've broadly given you. It creates a traffic surge, and it's not a case of me making dire predictions about the future. This is happening now. Before we have any development, this village is choking under its own weight. It's a rural area, and there's lots of farms surrounded by them. And the village is so narrow, the roads are hideous. The road is narrow in 3 places, proper dangerously narrow, where you have to go through. You're like, oh no, there's a vehicle coming. Oh. Now, of course, we all know the vehicles got bigger these days, which doesn't help. But this is the situation. We've got super narrow footways, and I'm going to show you photographs, and you will not believe how narrow they actually are. They are dangerously narrow. We've got the road that's so narrow it hasn't got a white line down the middle of it because it's too narrow to warrant it, and that's the main road. And they want to put 127 houses, i.e. 260 cars, that's what they've actually said, 260 is the likely number, that would have to go through this narrow road, then get to the second narrow pinch point where there's a canal bridge, then there's a third narrow pinch point, all within the space of 100 yards, 140 yards, a third narrow pinch point where they put the co-op. Now here's the thing, this co-op was put in by the same developer, and they promised they were going to move it back and create parking space in front, and they didn't. They decided to put it right up to the road. So we have parking spaces. We have 6 for a co-op. That's it. This causes absolute chaos where I live. And it means that people double park, and I'll show you some horrific examples of parking problems. It's horrendous. And then if that isn't bad enough, then you've got past the 3 pinch points, but there are 2 more. So if you're going towards the north, you have to go up a street which is got parking on one side again, not wide enough for cars. Literally, cars have to give way to each other, and the visibility is very, very poor. Now, one of the reasons I ranted and raved about this, I actually have been involved in this before, because when before 2011, the parking outside the co-op, the road isn't straight; it's a bit of a bend to it. So, for reasons which, I think I know what the reasons are, but reasons which weren't particularly clear at the time, they decided to move the parking from the opposite side of the road, so the outside of the bend, to the inside of the road. Now, if you think about this, this is now means that any big vehicle, like a big van or a delivery lorry to the co-op, now block the visibility down the street completely in both directions. So you can't see anything. You've got this tiny narrow chicane, and it's a real problem. And I appealed to the parish council and the local authority in 2010, begging them almost not to do this. And you're going to create more problems than you saw. Oh no, we've got to do it because children can run straight outside the co-op and run straight across the road into the path of an oncoming car. but they still can, because all they've got to do is run between two vehicles. There's no barrier. And I said at the time, put a barrier in. This is normal practice in towns and cities. You put a barrier in so kids can't run straight out from the door of the shop, and then they have to go up the pavement. It costs about £5,000, if that. Oh no, but that would cost £5,000, you know. Yeah, well, yeah. It's either that or leave it well alone where it is. I understand you're concerned about the kids. Just do the right thing. No, they did the cheapest option. They just moved it across. And now we've got this terrible traffic gridlock. So there are basically, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 pinch points in total in the village. And this is the central pinch point. It's horrendous in both directions. When you're cycling, it's like Death Race 2000. It's horrible, horrible. This is before the developers move in with this ridiculous proposal they've got here. Now, this is going to add 260 vehicles twice a day. You've got a primary school in the village as well. And we have, I'm careful what I say here. I need to choose my words carefully, but we've got the primary school is the only people in support of the application. So there's been 140 objections, and there's been 2, but the one's from the primary school and one's from the trust that owns it. So there's 1. And the primary school head is saying we need more pupils in the village. He doesn't seem to have any idea about the suitability of the locations. He clearly hasn't walked up and down. I personally challenged this person to his face in a big village meeting recently. I won't go into the details. Don't want to get anybody into trouble or me. But I challenged him and said, are you aware of have you actually walked up and down on these footways, which I'll show you in a second? And he clearly hasn't. And he's the only person that is in supporting this thing. And I said to him, I said, you may need extra pupils. I understand that a primary school may support development for that reason, and that is the reason. But that it doesn't seem to recognise the difference between what's an appropriate place to put these houses and a non-appropriate place. So we had a development of similar size back in 2018, 130 houses, which, yeah, hasn't done the village many favours, but luckily that was on the right side where all the towns and cities are. So the motorway, the towns and cities are on that side, so they go out and they don't have to go through these pinch points, which I mentioned, which cause all this issue. Anyway, I'll read you my objections to this application, which I think you're going to enjoy, and it'll make it much clearer. So, and when you hear some of the things, basically the builder supplied, developer supplied lots of material, supportive material, studies, traffic survey. The traffic survey, the residents here, and I joined them actually for this. I was interested. I thought it'd be quite eye-opening, and it certainly was. They did a traffic survey of our own. Now, when I did that, I hadn't studied the one from supporting the developer by a paid agent. And so much of this development proposal that's been put through, and I bet this is true around the country as well, in the UK, everything looks like it's been cut and pasted, and about 5, maybe 10% of it actually seems to have any application to this village at all. Anyway, our own traffic survey, we got all the numbers and it was all correlated out and put on graphs and everything. It was all done in good faith. Nobody was trying to, add any in or anything stupid like that. Everybody was being completely sensible. I did it for 2 hours. It was mind-blowing. It was hard to keep up because I was on quite a busy junction. You've got traffic going in 4 different directions, and you've got to monitor the type of traffic, etc., etc. And at the end of it, we got all the data, and it was 75% more traffic than they claimed in the developer's traffic survey. So much so that we've now got some cameras have appeared all around the village. We think that's a traffic survey camera, actually says on it. So we think that the authority must have commissioned this, because I appealed for them to do something about that. Anyway, let me read you the juicy objections. And this is not untypical. There's been a lot of similar stuff. So there's not much unique about mine, perhaps just the style of it, because it's very direct. A lot of people do a lot of more research in terms of the current government framework. But as I said, the current government we've got now just seem to want to wave everything through, irrespective of the location. And that's very, very bad for especially rural communities that are, places that you'd want to go and spend a summer's afternoon, down the pub, walk down the canal. This is going to ruin this village. There's nowhere to park. You can't get through the village. It's hideous already. This is going to make it a lot worse. So let me read it to you. Anyway, ready for a rant? Here it comes. I'm on fire here. Right. So, dear sir or madam, I am writing with reference to the above planning application to object in the strongest possible terms to the construction of a huge number of houses adjacent to my own address above. This letter lays out my objections and the reasons why this ill-informed and misguided application should be rejected by the council. Number 1, bad, inappropriate design and location. The proposed homes seem to be large, ugly townhouses. This village is not a town and these do not seem appropriate. They are too big to be placed beside single-storey and dormer bungalows, which they would be. This is what currently exists around the site. Completely inappropriate. They haven't thought this through at all. They will dominate over the existing dwellings in a very unpleasant manner and means an unreasonable loss of privacy and amenity for the affected existing properties. The screening trees that has been proposed do not mitigate the issue because the trees will take years to grow and it is unclear and has not been specified properly where these trees will be, how high they will be and what type they will be. Screening trees, it's just them trying to tick a box to get off and trying to push it through. Oh, we'll put some screening trees in, then they don't do it. And we've had all this before elsewhere in this village. Also, the screening trees tend to be very ugly, will blot out other people's light. They will also require maintenance, and this has not been made clear who will be responsible for this. What guarantee is there that they will ever grow adequately to create the intended effect anyway? Many homes would be badly affected and many of the homes that would be badly affected are not even shown to have screening trees, including our own property. And this is simply poor site design. The applicant's designs look more like a townhouse copy and pasted from a generic master plan design chart used somewhere else and simply dropped onto the plot without any proper investigation or consideration of the surroundings. In addition, the applicant has not made clear how the proposed homes are going to be heated. Will it be fuel oil, liquid petroleum gas or heat pumps? If it's the latter, these are extremely noisy and another nuisance factor that would negatively impact not only the existing nearby dwellings but the other homes that are proposed on the site due to the sheer volume of them. As each dwelling is said to be provided with EV charging points, here we go, don't get me started on this. How will the electricity substation cope with all this? We currently have regular power cuts here. We even had one 20 minutes ago, last Tuesday lunchtime, this is true. And this will likely get even worse. Also, would these new homes be allowed to have additional wood-burning stoves? ? If so, the additional pollution levels would be utterly untenable and ruinous for the local environment here in the village. I mean, when we're on the canal, when they have the canal boats with smokestacks, we can stink of them. It's a northerly breed, you know. We're just south of the canal, basically. The applicants... This is a corker. You're going to enjoy this if you like to hear me rant. Oh, I just have some fuel. Hold on. This is one of the best bits. The applicant's lack of proper local research and knowledge. What I'm going to do, by the way, bear with me. I'll read this through and then I'll show you actual photographs of some of the things I'm talking about, and you can see that you'll be thinking, they haven't really thought this through, have they? That's putting it mildly. Right. The applicant's lack of knowledge and lack of local proper research. Clearly, the applicant hasn't spent much time in this village in recent years since their appalling design where the co-op retail store is, which was wrongly, in our view, allowed to go ahead by the local council without adequate scrutiny, proving just how damaging poorly researched and ill-considered planning designs really can be. They left us a serious legacy of serious traffic and parking problems, all because no adequate or reasonable parking provision was made, and this continues to cause problems here in the village today, especially at busy peak times when traffic volumes are high. The sewers, drainage, etc. at the site is also very poor, and during the warmer summer weather periods, noticeable foul odours can be smelt. The applicant is seemingly misleading the local council's planning department once again with a ludicrous list of false claims of amenities and facilities that the village simply doesn't have. Like, for example, a post office. We haven't had a post office here for 18 months. It closed. A bank. We haven't had a bank here for about 15, 18 years. They actually said in their application, there's a post office with banking facilities. All lies. Complete falsehood. I'll go on. Breathe. This gets me angrier than a bad revel kit, I'll tell you that. It goes on. They also claim there's a railway station which was closed by Dr. Beeching in 1957. Decades and decades and decades ago. There is the remnants of a line, and actually they want to build, I'll come to that in a minute. They also claim there's a library, which there isn't. We have a library van comes about once every 3 weeks, and it only comes for 3 hours at lunchtime. So if you work and go out in the village, you're never going to see a library. We're in such a facility. What a load of garbage. They also claim there's a bus service connecting, giving good connectivity, as they put it, with the three local towns. This is completely false. We had a bus service cancelled for 6 months and had no bus service at all. Now a new service, but very limited and restricted, has been put in just to one town. So another completely false claim. By the way, it says it doesn't connect with the nearby towns or services to the local station because the timings are wrong. So you can't use the bus service to commute. It's impossible. It only runs a few times a day. The service is so limited, and this could easily be axed because it's only an experimental stage. The 2 previous bus services were axed 18 months ago. This does not make the village sustainable in transport terms for those that are unable to drive, and therefore it is a completely poor choice for this type of development because it relies on car transport. By the way, I should explain, they claim in this proposal that it's going to be affordable homes, 60% of affordable homes. 60%? Is that right? Anyway, about half. Let's just say half. But that means that there'll be younger people that will need to commute. So everybody's going to be going out in a car, right? Flooding and drainage. Another good one. The local river floods regularly and bursts its banks for up to 3 months when we have heavy rain, literally. The applicant has proposed a so-called country park right adjacent to this river. This ground, we even have photos of the whole area underwater during the winter months, which I'll show you shortly. One would have expected the applicant to know this had they done proper credible research and due diligence. To claim a site of just over 3 hectares as a country park is absurd. Normally, under is it rural England, they specify a country park to be 10 hectares or more. And it goes on to say, this seems a cynical attempt by the developer to mitigate the destruction of a large area of Category 3 prime agricultural land that is perfect for livestock and farming. Indeed, just in February, March of this year, sheep were happily grazing just behind our back fence on this very land. This country park, inverted commas, is completely without merit as it will be flooded during the wetter periods of the year and boggy and unsuitable at most other times. In fact, it would be dangerous for children to be there. The applicant should know this had they done proper research. It's clearly unsound as a proposition. There's no evidence that the applicant's claim of enhanced biodiversity, they use all this buzzword bull, just, spurious nonsense. The applicant's claims of enhanced biodiversity are nothing but spurious words to make their master plan, as they call it, seem somehow vaguely more sustainable. The additional runoff areas as well of the rainwater from the drives and roofs of the buildings of such a big site in this location will create major problems in terms of drainage around the river and also into the canal. Such an immense development and what I should have explained at the start, this is not a flat site either. This is why it's This is why these are facts. It's a very hilly, it's got downhill slope to it. It's a drainage nightmare to actually try to, it's a bit of a nightmare to build on, I would think, because it's so, the topography is so uneven. It's like hills and valleys almost. It's a stupid site to choose for this kind of development. But anyway, it goes on to say, due to the lack of drainage this would have, once there is the runoff effect from all the estate, the river would likely flood much more seriously even than it does now. It really would. And we would have not a country park, but a country lake. This would also seriously impact the road, the main road out of the village, which can flood occasionally. And as we also have flooding at the other end of the road, on the northern side and on the eastern side. And these flood regularly when we have periods of heavy rain. I mean, unpassable. I'm not just saying that they get wet or there's a puddle. You can't drive through it safely. We get cut off. It's happened twice last year. Crazy. More investigation clearly needs to be undertaken here. Also, the sewage work was recently upgraded, but not with future development intended. No. This was purely because of the taking on the additional sewage and wastewater diverted from another local village 6 months ago. And there is nothing to indicate another 130 dwellings would easily be accommodated without more serious negative effects for the village. Now we're getting into the real meat potatoes, and this is where the photos will come in. Environmental impact. The damage to the ecosystem will be immense and seriously decline and destroy habitats for animals. And this is not made up, these are actual animals we have here. Bats, we have a lot of them actually. Foxes, rodents, insects, badgers, stoats, rabbits. We have dragonflies, some nice ones. Pheasants, owls, a lot of owls here. Kingfishers, woodpecker, we get regular woodpeckers. Jays, buzzards, loads of them. Sparrowhawks, ducks, and even swans, because they sometimes nest just beside the canal. All these creatures are seen regularly here and regularly forage and feed in the field and the woodland. But this development will completely and utterly demolish. Increased carbon footprint from 127 extra dwellings, cars, wood burners, barbecues, etc. would horribly impact the air quality here. And we're in a bit of a valley here, so the air does tend to, especially in the winter or when it's not windy, it stagnates a bit. Right, number 5, damage to village character and ambience. This is where we get to the most serious of all. Completely unsustainable, okay? The village is a busy, major, four-way road traffic junction, and it was striking that the Edison survey supporting the applicant's proposals on traffic fell well short in terms of its accuracy of volumes compared to the much higher volumes we experience every day here and which were reflected in the residents' traffic survey, carried out in good faith by local residents. And as I say, I didn't know about the details. I hadn't read the actual traffic survey they did anyway. It wasn't out then. So we did this not knowing what they came up with, and our numbers were 75% higher, despite not knowing what they claimed. So it tells you that, well, I'm careful what I say. But anyway, basically that it's not accurate and completely inappropriate. It's as though they did it on, Bank Holiday Monday at 9 a.m, this traffic survey, because we did it on a Wednesday and a Thursday, middle of the week, right throughout the day. So it was very representative. But anyway, let me continue. The disparity between the two surveys was shocking. We do feel that the local authority or another total independent entity should be undertaking this official monitoring rather than a paid agent supporting the applicant. The traffic here is a massive issue and has become significantly worse since the local authority implemented parking charges in the main car park, as this has forced lots of workers and small business owners and staff working in the medical centre to flood their cars onto the nearby roads because of the unaffordability of the parking and the added costs. This has added to congestion and further reduces the width, the safety of the already overcrowded highway here. And you can see this, people parking on the pavements. It's a nightmare. We've got people parking on both pavements on both sides, so it's becoming difficult to navigate with, a disabled person in a wheelchair or, like electric mobility scooters. And it's a nightmare. Honestly, it's not good. It's not good at all. Bad enough on foot if you're perfectly fit. I'll come to that in a minute. Another 258 cars being added into the village will seriously impact this already serious situation that has been created. And serious bottlenecks and queues at the exit of the 2 proposed access points are inevitable. The village roads quickly become gridlocked whenever larger HGV vehicles meet near the church. So the church has got this really narrow road around it, and it's like Monte Carlo. It's a bit like the Monaco Grand Prix, frankly. Perhaps not as fast, obviously. But it's really, really narrow for HGVs to get around. There's a hairpin there as well. Oh, anyway, keep going. It also says when larger vehicles such as these, tractors, agricultural vehicles with trailers and HGVs often conflict there. This quickly blocks the road in both directions, and it's typical for major congestion to form. The pollution caused when this happens is grievous and totally out of proportion with the size of this little village. The proposed development with almost 15% more vehicles will only exacerbate this problem to the detriment of quality of life here. The canal is a busy hub for leisure traffic too, especially during summer long holiday periods. The proposed development will totally dominate the appearance of the village from the northern approach. It will be an ugly vista removing light, dominating over the mooring areas and creating issues with the water runoff in bad weather. Proposed tree screening will only make this worse, creating a dark corridor effect. Noise nuisance in both directions from canal barge smoking engine exhausts and wood burners will also impact the new residents of the proposed new homes as will, because of the proximity conflict, loud noise from the lock gates on the canal, which makes a hell of a din. And they're going to be just a few metres away from this. It's just stupid, honestly. Now we get to some of the more serious stuff, which I'll show you some very, very scary examples of. Some video. Ooh. Pedestrian safety concerns. Now, this is where I mentioned about the school headmaster who thinks that it's perfectly safe for his pupils, that there would be probably another 100, 120 pupils, potentially, that would have to navigate this, running the gauntlet where there is a pedestrian footway that's 14 inches wide. I'll show you. This pretty little village has already been overdeveloped for its scale and way overdeveloped for its existing scale and amenities. The strain is obvious as the traffic here is now a very serious issue for both drivers, cyclists and pedestrians alike. We've already have serious safety issues for pedestrians who regularly are confronted by vehicles mounting the pavement. Now this is not a wild claim. This happens all day. It happens all the time. It's scary when it happens. And I'm going to show you a video in a minute of quite a serious example of it. Due to the lack of road width, some of these vehicles have no choice. Video footage was sent to the police just last week of a near miss with a van almost hitting a pedestrian on the very footway that the applicant developer proposes the new estate's residents would need to walk along. Wait till you see the video, okay? Between entry point A and entry point B, the footway is too narrow for two pedestrians to walk side by side, as would a mother and child do, and equally dangerous for pushchairs or mobility scooters or wheelchairs, etc., because the width is so poor and the surface so uneven that these vehicles continue to mount the pavement, putting real danger to life. The same issue is even worse at the Canal Road Bridge, where the pavement is only 14 inches wide and horribly broken in surface. This is clearly not even safe now, without adding another 400 plus pedestrians who would need and have no choice but to access this way, because there's no other route. No safety crossings are present. This is clearly not a safe place for young children to walk to school. Has the applicant not seen this? Has the headmaster not seen this? He clearly hasn't. Wait till I'll show you the pictures. We'll get into that. 7. We're getting there. We're not far to go now, but bear with me. 7. The lack of economic case for the development. Without any meaningful sized employers here, there is 4 miles. We haven't got another town for 4.5, 5 miles, and that's a small town. So there's a small town about 6 miles away, another one about 5 miles, and one about 4.5 miles, and then a big town about 8, 9 miles away. Excuse me. So, because there is no meaningful employers anywhere near, and with the additional population of 400 plus citizens in one go, the estate will become a commuter zone of urban sprawl trapped within a village, whereby inhabitants would all need to use the road and drive to employment centres that are elsewhere. Crazy this. This will create huge traffic issues, adding to the already serious problems we have in the area. Between entry point A and entry point B, which is proposed, this will become heavily congested as cars try to get to the main road and fight their way through, therefore, the 4 pinch points mentioned, which I'll show you photos, including the new super narrow main road access points and the canal bridge, the co-op and the church. The large volumes of existing farm traffic and HGVs is already choking the village, as has been seen in a large volume of videos and photos already collected by people in the village, which I'll show you some of. Some of them, this is written in my wife's hand. Some of them, like my husband and I, yeah, it's not written by me. That's written by my wife. That's mine, but it's sorry. Some of them, like my husband and I, have already experienced gridlock events of up to 10 minutes plus. Literally. My wife was stuck for 11 minutes, and it's all on dashcam. I've got footage. I'll show you some pictures from it. These serious incidents can completely block off the village. The village news agents has also told us that when the recent major development in 2018, 130 houses, was completed, they saw virtually no new business at all, just 2 customers for the newsagents. 2 out of 130 houses. So they always say, oh, we'll build, it'll have massive economic benefits, you'll get all this extra business for the local shops. Doesn't happen. They go elsewhere. They don't go and shop in the village. That's the problem, really. And it says here, this led to no extra business. This is supported as evidenced by the recent closing of the bike shop, the Italian restaurant, and the closure of the post office, which the applicant doesn't seem to even realise. So theoretical dreams about extra trade generated automatically when there are more houses built is complete nonsense and not borne out by the facts. I'm coming to my closing statements. Lack of sustainable infrastructure. Despite a recent building extension and the promise of more GPs, the village medical practice has a long wait time for GPs appointments of 6 weeks plus that we've actually experienced. I actually experienced 7 once, but anyway. And these will only grow worse. We currently only have 4 GPs and they are not working full time in the village. We also lost a nurse and are down to 3 here now. We actually had 2 nurses leave us, but 1 has been recruited, so we've lost 2 and gained 1. So we lost 1 in real terms. So whilst the applicant uses outdated information about the capacity of local medical facilities, this needs to be revised and researched properly, as it seems doubtful that another 400 people could be accommodated without serious impact on the availability of medical care. The same is true with the provision for youngsters here, where there's no youth club or after-school provision for working parents unable to collect their kids until they return home from work. There's been a host of incidents this year of criminal behaviour and undesirable activity by youths in the village, involving the police on several occasions. Yet the local authority took the astonishing decision to demolish the local kids' self-built bike track behind the football park that was harming no one and actually kept a number of them out of trouble. So again, there is no provision for youngsters or teens, plus the availability of school places is now under serious pressure and threat due to overdevelopment in nearby towns. This has reduced the size of the local catchment areas for the secondary schools. This could force children in this village to have to travel much further afield for a secondary education in the future, which of course increases the carbon footprint of the development. Summary. The applicant has failed to demonstrate any real understanding of the needs or limitations or amenities offered by this village, and has not taken steps to research the proposed site with proper due diligence. This project seems a grossly opportunistic and highly speculative proposal without current proper investigation or preparation done before what seems to be a cut and paste town planning style that was simply dropped onto a site map. This renders the entire plans completely unsustainable. It goes outside the settled wishes of the village in the neighbourhood plan agreed in 2015 to 2030, to cover those periods. It is outside the current village settlement boundary. The site is way too big and in the wrong place, and with insufficient access to the facilities in the village to support the traffic during or after construction, insufficient medical facilities or social services required for the extra population without major investment in roads, transports and services. Its negative impact upon the environment and upon the conservation area would be massive, and we would lose forever the wonderful wildlife that we all experience here daily. In summary, it would negatively alter this village forever, making it an overcrowded, polluted and traffic-choked bottleneck, even worse than it already is today, and with zero tangible benefit for the village or anybody in it, its residents or indeed the surrounding areas. For all these good, factual reasons, I respectfully request that this proposal is firmly rejected. Now, that was typed up by my wife with a bit of help from me. And there we go. I basically, I rest my case. I rest my case. I'm not going to go into all the details, but what I'm going to show you now is some pictures. And when you see the pictures, this is going to make you realise what I'm talking about. So, let's have them. So, pavement problems. This is... I've got a slight problem with my tracking. I'm going to have to just go on to stop it tracking, and we're going to have to move like so. No, we don't want to zoom. Right, we want to, yes. That's it. Here we've got a lorry parking on the pavement. This is right where the actual the letterbox is actually. Parking on the pavement so he can go to the co-op. And the other side is so blocked because it's so narrow, as I'll show you in a second. So he's blocking the only pavement that is wide enough, and this happens all the time. This was reported, so he got into trouble. Yep, you can see exactly what we're talking about there. Oh, this is not related. This is a picture of my pussycat. That's Pee-wee. She's not very well at the moment. She's got trouble with her teeth. She's going to the doctor's on Tuesday for the teeth done. Right, here we go. So this is, when I talked about the access points A and B, this is the tiny narrow main road. This is supposed to be a main road between those 2 points. Now, it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Look at this. So this is a tailback we've got, but look at the width of the road as well. In fact, it's busy, obviously. But look at the width of it. Can you see there's some pedestrians there? If I just zoom this in. Now, look at the width of the pavement as well, which is super narrow. And this is what happens. The vehicles mount the pavement. I'll prove it to you in a minute. It's absolutely horrendous. So we constantly have farm traffic. Tractors roar up and down here all day. We've got HGVs going to the other local towns and villages. Another shot of it. Just turn this around. There we go. That's it. That's better. Then we've got, this is one of the actual 2 access roads itself. This is how chock-a-block it gets just with people's vehicles parked on it. And they want to make this the main access road into a building site, which is absolutely bonkers. This is going in the opposite direction with a tractor. This is my wife has now had to mount the pavement. She's got no choice because a tractor has ignored the give way to oncoming traffic and just charged through. I know it's not a very good photo, but that's what you see in there. A slightly better version of it there, actually. So she's now mounted the pavement. She's got no choice. Now, you can understand what's going to happen when there's pedestrians around. I mean, she wouldn't have done that. She'd have waited. But she didn't. I saw the video of this, and she had no option. It wasn't her being remotely aggressive. She's minding her own business. He came flying down this road at about 40 miles an hour, which he shouldn't have been doing, and he's supposed to give way. Here we've got, ignore the play, here we've got another load of vehicles here congesting this very, again, this is the access road. This says suitable and sustainable, they call it. Absolutely ridiculous. Then we've got, this is the pavement. This is the pavement you have to walk down that they're proposing that children would walk down. How absurd is this? There's virtually nothing there. Now, here we go. You ready? Sorry, let me just get you some sound. Is that believable? Okay, so this is me. This is quite incredible, frankly. Let's just get this for you. So we've got a very responsible lorry driver and a very stupid van driver. I'll show you again. Now watch this. So the lorry driver is giving way. Van driver almost takes me out and completely goes onto the pavement. It didn't, and you can see, look at the other vehicles. Watch the blue van that's coming, and you realise that he didn't need to go on the pavement at all. This is what happens every day here. Now we have another. Here we have one of my neighbours just round the corner, retired school headmaster actually, a good headmaster. Look at the width of this pavement over the bridge. It's just unbelievable. 14 inches it is. Absolutely ridiculous. So lorries come through here. You can't walk with a child over there. Lorries come piling past, and there's a proper sort of danger to life. Here we've got this is a bit further down now near the co-op. Here we've got I think that's the same company. Is that the same company that was parked on the pavement? I think it might be. But look at this again, mounting the pavement. That's a still photo of what I've just the video that I've just shown you to illustrate just how this happens all the time. And he could see me with the camera out. I was taking footage before he even arrived, and he just ignored me and almost took me out. That was just dangerous. Okay, so that's most of them, but there's a little bit more to show you, which is relevant, and that's the flooding. I talked about the flooding. This is the area toward the back on the right that's completely flooded. This is where they're talking about having a country park without any provision for drainage that they've added. They haven't done that. They haven't done the due diligence. You can see how this floods. This is the opposite side of the road. This is just a field that's completely flooded. And that's the field, the flooded field. You can see how severe it is. It looks like a river. It looks like a lake. Literally. Absolutely ridiculous. There is one more photo I want to show, if you would just bear with me a second. There we go, active tracking. There is one more photo I want to show you, if you just bear with me a second. I think you can see that this is, we have an application going on here that is just insane, quite frankly. So dangerous, so irresponsible. And there's one photo. You'll recall, just bear with me a minute, I've got a slight problem here. If you remember what I said about when I just showed you the elderly gentleman who was walking, the former headmaster, you could see how tricky it was for him to walk. Here I've got a photo which somebody else took. I think I'm right in saying that. Yeah, it's not one of mine. But it was a very, very pertinent. That very spot where the gentleman was struggling with his stick is this spot, and this is an excellent photo of what actually happens every single time. So let me put the tracking off. Knock off the tracking. That's it. Center the gimbal. Look at the pedestrian here. That's the same spot. The white lines are supposed to deter the traffic, supposed to be a refuge for pedestrians. No motorist or lorry driver takes the blind bit of notice of them. They really don't. Let me just zoom this in. There you go. Can you see the pedestrian squeezed up against the wall? And this is where... Let me just come back. Okay. This is where the local headmaster seems to think is a suitable... It's just madness. It's as though he thinks it's a suitable location for children to walk to school. Completely insane it is, this. It's bonkers. So there's my rant. I did have another version of it, which I don't know if you want to... If you heard my own version, it was more of the same, really, to be honest. But I think you get the gist. The problem is they want you to go down, and if you were one of the people that bought these new houses that they're proposing, you'd have to have a fair drive to get toward the main A or B access road, which are just too narrow. That was the other thing. They're only under 5.5 metres, which is the supposed minimum requirement, and they're only about 4.5 to 5 metres in places. So they're not wide enough. That's why they look so congested. And then you finally get toward the end of that road where you saw all the congestion of the parked vehicles. And there's going to be a queue of vehicles trying to fight their way. And then they have to fight their way onto that main road where you saw the big long queue. And then there's a second queue that comes out of B. The whole thing will replicate 80 yards down the road. Then you've got that bridge, that lethal bridge where there's no room to swing a cat on either side to get through as a pedestrian. And you walk down there and traffic whizzes down. It doesn't, they often don't respect. Some do, of course, but a lot of motorists don't respect the pedestrians at all. It's terrifying. Then they get to the co-op, and then there's that business that you saw. My wife was behind the big van. This is the one I talked about them when they moved the parking area. You can't get through. They can't see anything. It's horrendous. So you got chicane. It's like one chicane after another. And I complained about this to one of the parish councillors. They said, oh, well, at least it slows the traffic down. No, it's not safer because you can't see where you're going. You need to see. You have to commit, and if you're on a bicycle, it's absolutely lethal. You commit, and then you find there's an HGV coming the way, and you're in. It happened to me twice, and I had to go on the pavement. And I was lucky I was able to because the curb was dropped. Absolute madness. It's such a dangerous thing. And then you get beyond all this, and then you get to the one where my wife was stuck outside the chip shop for 10 minutes. Should have got some chips. Because that's narrow and restricted and couldn't get through. Or because of the issue at the church, which is where it's like the Monaco Grand Prix. Horrendous. Sorry to go on and on about this, but I think I need a stiff drink after this. This is it's not just a case of I don't want this in my backyard, which I don't, that's true, but if I didn't live here, and I was one of the many people that visit this place as a tourist or come to the show, we have shows and we have a beer festival and we have a music festival, anybody like that will look at these plans and think this is absolutely insane. And it went in the local newspaper, there was an article about it, and the feedback on the online version was people were saying that is effing nuts, you know. People were really against it, even that didn't live here. They said that is a stupid place to put all that traffic. Completely the wrong location. Not a suitable place for a development at all. It traps it at the wrong end of the village and forces it to go through all this like rat running where there is HGVs, there's farmer tractors with trailers, and it's just so narrow. It's just scary. Anyway, that was my rant. That was my first Peter Goes Rogue rant. I thought it was time we had a rant. I haven't been modelling rants recently, have we? I didn't rant about the airfix Stalwart. I was very nice about that. But they sorted it, so it didn't require a rant. This does require a rant. This is rank stupidity. This is just greed and opportunism above common sense. And I said to the schoolmaster, who was the only person in favour, and I said, we don't need to fill your classrooms at any price. I fully appreciate you have a need to exist as a school. Fully respect your need to have more pupils, but you need to understand the difference. You know, it's not, I almost said this to you. I just bit my lip, and I was going to say, do you understand English as well, sir? Do you understand the difference between appropriate and inappropriate? Because that is an inappropriate site. You couldn't put pedestrians and cars in a worse spot in any village. Madness. Anyway. There we have it. I've said my piece. I wanted to get that off my chest because a lot of other people have written very, very similar things. Some have gone into more detail, some have gone into less. But that's kind of what we've written there is pretty, sums it up pretty well. You can see from those photographs just how crazy it is. A village that's got no room for expansion. It's not a good site for development, apart from small measured developments, which is what's in the neighbourhood plan. They actually said we wanted, I think it was no more than 40 to 50 houses for the next 10 years. They want to dump 130 houses in one go, but in the worst place. I say it's not in an accessible place. It's really hard to get to. If you're coming to visit a relative in those developments they're proposing, it'll drive you crazy. And it won't be enjoyable for the people who come and live there. It won't be a good experience for them. It's just going to be traffic hell. It's bad enough now. Anyway, that's my four penneth. I've said my piece. I had a good old rant about developers, and there we have it. A bit long, wasn't it, really? But I'm sure that many of you who are listening to me, if you've got to the end, thank you if you have. I know that lots of you have got the same sort of thing going on near you as well. But there are certain sites that really are stupidly unsuitable, and those, you've got to weigh up all the pros and cons. Not just drop houses in and sort of, blinkers on. Ridiculous. Don't do that. Because somebody's going to get killed here. I mean, I was nearly killed. You can see that was me taking that footage with the van. He was completely oblivious to the fact he was breaking the law. Absolute madness. I have to tell you that driver is being prosecuted by the Cheshire Police. I sent it to them because I thought this was bad. And the lorry driver coming the other way was so sensible as well. And one of my neighbours witnessed this. He was waiting to get out at the actual access point near where we live. And he saw it all and he said, what was that? He said, was that you on the pavement? And I said, yeah. He said, he looked like he nearly ran you over. I said, he did nearly run me over. But this happens all day long here. And they want to, it's like you've got a fire going, and a dangerous fire. Let's pour some petrol on it and see if that makes things better, Can smile about it, it's not funny. Not funny. And it will ruin a beautiful area for very questionable benefit. The only beneficiary from this development will be the builders, the developers, anybody that's involved with it. Basically, it won't benefit the area. It'll bring nothing good. It's just the wrong development, the wrong scale, the wrong place. So there we go. And I'm sure there's lots of others around the country like that. Anyway, let me know if you're in a similar situation. I'd love to hear about it, because I've got very interested in this now. I've become much more aware of what's going on and some of the crazy things that are being done. And all for the wrong reasons, I believe. But I won't get into that. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you got to the end, hearing me rant and rave about planning matters and developers. I have to tell you, by the way, that the parish council in this village have done a very good job, actually. They kept really quiet until the very end and put in an objection. And they went into incredible detail. Good job I didn't read you that. I'd be here for 3 hours. But they basically then put, this is what you'd need to put this right. This is what you'd have to invest in the village. And they were talking about roadways. They were talking about barriers, safety barriers, different widening the road, which is very difficult, if not impossible. Some of these places it'd be impossible. Safety barriers for pedestrians and child-friendly barriers. Better lighting. A lot of very sensible, common sense things that would have to be done for it not to become death trap, for a literal death trap. I'm convinced somebody's going to be killed here. Some old person's going to get knocked over, because I've seen near misses. I had a near miss myself. What do you mean? I'm not old. Or am I? But anyway, to sum it up, to summarise what the parish council said, they came to a total figure for all the work that needs to be done to make it even remotely acceptable. £7.2 million. And when you saw what they were proposing, it was all reasonable stuff. It wasn't just airy-fairy, silly things. It's quite sensible. And the sort of thing that should have already been done by the developer and realised that because that's needed, it's not a suitable site. It's not rocket science. But anyway, I don't want to say any more than that. I don't want to prejudice anything. I just want to have my say, and I've given you a flavour, shown you some photos without giving too much away, of something that's very important. And it's not just happening here, it's happening in other places. So let me know what you think. Let me know about your own experiences and situation. I'd be very interested to hear that. This is not going to become a regular thing, me talking about housing developments, but I wanted to get it off my chest and get a damn good rant out of the way. Get one on the board for Peter Goes Rogue. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with something completely different. Now for something completely different that will probably raise your heart rate a little bit and raise your eyebrows in a very Roger Moore way. Now, nothing smutty, something most revealing, shall we say, that I think you'll find very interesting. Anyway, till next time, stay well, stay safe. Thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Until next time, thanks a lot. Bye for now.